Like, by that look, I'm assuming that means we're live.
Every time. Every time.
I just wanted to
see it.
start a new show, not on a non sequitur, and there was a moment of silence. These guys were chatting shit, and there was a moment of silence, and I thought, this is it. This is my moment. I'll get in there. And I'm not allowed to have nice things on my show! My show! My home! My bakery!
I regret nothing.
No, you don't. That's the problem. Hey, hello. Welcome to Jarviskjir, Amelia's detective agency. Something that's actually been in the works for a long time. So we're very excited to be here. With the whole gang's back together. The whole crew, the whole people, everyone. We're all here. Good. Now you're quiet.
Yeah.
We're letting you intro.
Look, the squeaky wheel gets the
bad.
grease, Ollie.
I don't even know what that means.
Good.
Before we begin in earnest, this is the perfect chance to do a little announcement for people who only watch the shows, especially on YouTube or on VOD, and I know there's quite a lot of you. If you're new, we, as pretty much all of us, are involved in a new venture, and it's actually an expansion of Jarviskjir called Schism. There's an announcement trailer right now on YouTube that is going to be linked there. I also should remember to put it in the YouTube description as well. There's going to be a Kickstarter coming early April. That's what the next month is, right? And yeah. I don't know my months. And we're super excited about it. And it is Jarviskjir. It is an expansion. The things that you learn from these games are going to be connected, but it is mostly new things. And so that is super excited. But we also have a new thing happening right here. So, are we all ready to begin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
As we listen, as by the way, this song was actually made by Josiah especially for the show. As we listen to a specially curated song, this story takes place in Bastillion. Some of you may know or have heard about Bastillion before. In the heartlands of Jarviskjir, it's a place muttered about and rumored about. Some people might not be sure that it's real. It's sometimes called a city of magic, city of demons, a blasted cold hell from most people who have escaped from such a place. It is a city of a unique people, of magic, of all sorts of horrors, and of crippling student loan debt. We enter Bastillion, a city that sits impossibly in the center of a humongous ice lake. It sits in the north of Jarviskjir that is already inhospitable. But Bastillion sits in the middle of a humongous ice lake. It's incredibly difficult to get to, but once you do cross these plains of ice and cold, you reach a city of spires. Bastillion's made up of an uncountable number of towers. Here, in the middle of the city, you can look up and see some towers that go all the way up beyond the clouds. You can look down and see spires that disappear into mist, and then further down into the ice, and even under the ice below. It's a city full of mysteries, such as, why is it here? Why are people drawn to this place? Why do the spires hold such gothic and curious designs coated in gargoyles and grotesques? It's not an exactly hospitable place, considering all the walkways that crisscross between the towers and the inherent dangers of living in a tall city like this. But there's quite a passionate and unique community that thrives here. Thrives here almost completely alone from the rest of the world. And there's a new little community forming, a new little venture, as we look on an unremarkable street on the side of one of these spires that is equally unremarkable. Some of these spires have histories, great names, or deep ties to one of the colleges of magic. This is just... you wouldn't even bat an eye if you walked by this place. But there's a little door and a little hand-carved sign for Amelia's detective agency. And why don't you describe, Erin, what you would see if you were to open the door to this place?
Absolutely. So Amelia's detective agency is a 2-tiered tower, 2 floors, relatively small though in all other terms. I would say it's a dark brick in color, just a couple windows on either side. Really no decoration or floors because Amelia is too pragmatic for such things.
Stone. Cold stone.
And if you open it's cold stone. And if you open the door, you will see currently, because it does change every day, the first floor is a study, with just a couple chairs set up in a desk and lots of different bookshelves, and a stair going upwards. And that changes every single day. Also today it's a kitchen. A little cozy kitchen.
Is there anyone in?
I don't know, are my awful employees here?
That's a good question. Let's, before we get to the awful employees, just a brilliant way to lampshade the whole campaign in one sentence. Why don't we real quick describe Amelia and what she's doing? A character we've seen before, but some people newer may not have.
Yeah, Amelia. I love her artwork that Ollie did. It's in that corner of there. She is horribly pale. She has lavender-colored eyes and white hair. And she is dressed in the traditional garment of the Abjuration School, which I believe is teal in color.
Yeah, kind of teals and blues and stuff. The color I've got the overlay is kind of what I imagine.
I would say based on the robes and kind of like the frail form, she could be nothing else but a wizard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody just immediately knows it.
Totally fair.
Mm-hmm.
Where are my twins?
Well, if we're waiting for work...
It's just an average day waiting for work. You've probably done a few, like, I think you two and Amelia have done one kind of uneventful job already. But
What time of day is it?
good question. Late morning.
Late morning. I imagine we probably start promptly fairly early, knowing Amelia. So realistically, we'd be at the office presumably.
You're in the office.
Yeah.
Describe.
Probably.
One of you start describing yourselves.
Okay.
You wanna go ahead?
Okay, so Ronan would be there checking his equipment very diligently, making sure everything's working, everything's hooked up properly. He's about 5'9". He's got light green eyes, brown hair. His hair is done up into a ponytail at the back. So it's longish, medium hair. And he's wearing chainmail, but specifically it would be a little bit darker sort of toned than you would expect, not shiny. Little barbs all over his armor. Now, the other thing you'll notice is his armor is covered in various pouches and things conveniently placed for when he would need it. Tools he would need, crowbar on one side, that
Very
sort of thing.
practical.
Very, very practical. He's got a longsword to his side and seemingly a long bow on his back. It doesn't look like it's been used much, though. And he would be sitting there checking his equipment. Notably, those are the only weapons he currently has on him. And he would be fairly straight-faced, probably looking a little grumpy, but not that grumpy. It's more his just resting bitch face.
And I imagine next to him is his brother who doesn't have resting bitch face.
Doesn't have resting bitch face. Actually looks like fairly happy, content with the situation. It's a slow work morning.
It's also warm in here.
Yes, and Caden is he's about 5'9", weirdly enough, also with brown hair and light green eyes. It's almost like they're twins. But he is wearing leather armor, but it's a hardened breastplate underneath a leather cuirass. It's actually engraved with a blue jay on it. You'll notice he looks not shady. As much as Ronan was described there as looking a little shady, Caden does not look shady. He looks like he's just wearing, some fairly standard armor.
You kind of look like a Jarviskjir handyman who's just as likely to help you put up a shelf as deal with a giant rat, right?
Yeah, very much so. And he's covered in axes. That's probably the best way to describe his weaponry.
Like many a teenage boy.
Like many a teenage boy. He's covered in axes. He's got 2 hand axes in particular that he has on his side, and a great axe on his back, which it similar to Ronan's bow. Doesn't seem like it's seen much use, all things considered. But he is, just currently he's sitting in the chair. Probably the chair is flipped around backwards, and he's just kind of tapping his foot with his head kind of leaned on the back of the chair, just kind of waiting for what's going on.
And there's one more awful employee. Why don't you describe yourself, Theo, in a room full of half elves?
Well, I am so happy that you should ask. Father Theodore Argentis is sitting by the fire in a comfortable chair with a corncob pipe in the corner of his mouth, puffing away as he reads some type of ancient tome. Seem to be filled with all manner of things occult and such. He, of course, is dressed quite nicely. Accents of purple accentuating his fairly dark robes. He is a man in his 43rd year, seems to be quite weathered. Looks that he has maybe seen a thing or two in his time among this population. And he is simply content to be studious in nature, reading upon all manners of dark secrets which may lurk within every corner of this world.
I have a lot of books that would interest you.
Perfect.
You'll if you're browsing through the selection of books, you'll notice stuff related to shadow magic or some necromancy thrown in there, a little bit of conjuration.
That would be...
Magic.
I think that would be the first thing that took you, Theo. Theo is noticeably not from around here. These three, they act and look like they belong. Theo is new. I think the first thing you might have noticed, especially when you were starting working with Amelia, there's just a book about necromancy just on show. Publicly. It is not taboo in Bastillion, and Amelia does dabble. Actually, has invented some necromantic things from her time in Lichvale.
Very cool. Well, as I always say, there is nothing like a bit of necromancy in the wee hours of the morning to get you raised for the day.
Oh no.
I'm not really quite sure what you mean by that.
It's a pun, son. You know,
A what?
it's literally not worth my time to even begin extrapolating on the very nature of puns in several of the linguistic applications.
Was all that extra stuff necessary?
I'm gonna ignore all of that, and I'm just kind of fussing around back and forth between my 2 different alarm spells going on that are on the windows.
Mm-hmm.
And just checking that my door is safe and that it hasn't been disrupted or anything.
Are you the kind of person who would every now and again peek out the door?
No, because if I open the door, then somebody could get in.
Yeah.
That breaks the magic.
Yeah. Okay.
Up
makes
against the
sense.
window.
Trying to look at the street from the windows that do not face the street. One of your windows faces the bridge. I like to imagine that this tower sits on basically an intersection where there's a bridge that goes off to another tower and a bridge that goes off to another tower. So you can kind of peek at people coming by awkwardly if you like kind of put your face really up against the window, as we've all definitely done one day.
Excellent. I also think that there would be a just like a dome of force hanging off part of the tower that kind of makes it like a second like room that you can go into. And that's going to be the spell that I cast every day, in addition to my alarm spells. And conjuring the tower. It's fine, they're all rituals.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
It's a-
the morning routine.
It's
just
a
a
weird
very
little
early
place.
start.
Yeah.
I am excited about this Dome of Safety myself.
I'm not changing it.
It's an ancient,
I like the dome of safety.
ancient
Lord
mage.
I do like the idea that that's just the Voss word for safety is safety.
Safety. they got
That
it
does
from
that
the other
does
languages.
make sense.
It's
Voss
canon now.
Voss is we'll go more about Voss in
Yeah.
a bit, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Amelia, what is it you'd say you do here? What is Amelia's detective agency all about?
Amelia's detective agency is all about exploiting the hardships of others. Eventually, they'll become desperate enough to come to us for help.
I don't know what I expected.
A lot of people need help in Bastillion, and we are there to take their money
Yeah, I mean, like,
and help them.
brutally honest about it, at least.
Yeah, that works.
Excellent. It's...
So,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, do we have anything going on today? Amelia?
That's a no.
I can go ask around.
I mean, there's no rush, right?
No, that's true, I suppose.
Okay.
That's
he just
true.
goes back to just sitting.
If we are to be stuck in here for yet another day, I would be happy to educate you boys on some of the more eloquent aspects of magic, since we have nothing else to do.
Please
You know
don't.
what? Why don't I send a letter out to my college and see if anybody needs any assistance there?
But I think that works.
Excellent.
I've never met anybody in a school of learning who did not need assistance of one kind or another.
I still don't really know what you're saying all that much, I'll be honest with you.
I just
Yeah,
looked to
that's-
Amelia and I'm like, I do speak the common tongue, do I not?
Just
You do.
using a lot of large words that are not necessary, I think.
Listen to me, son. The only thing that separates us from the animals out there is our use of language. You might as well be crawling around on all fours, sniffing in every corner for a mouse you might consume, if you are just to speak as the mere peasants who pass through the street.
Kaden kind of leans back and then just turns to you, Ronan, and just says, "Do you want to arm wrestle?"
Sure.
Please both give me a strength check. These are your first rolls of the campaign, so
Yep.
make them good.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Wait! Oh!
This is actually hilarious.
That's perfect. That
Perfectly
is
balanced, as
perfect.
all things should be.
Perfectly balanced. Because the thing is, both of you, you're twins. You're twins in a fantasy land, which means you know all your strengths and weaknesses. Even though it's been a while since you've arm wrestled, you know Ronan, you know how to beat Caden. Caden, you know how to beat Ronan. So both of you just stalemate, straining yourselves for an extended period of time. I'm gonna get you. While they're doing this,
watching this whole thing.
while they're doing this, and yeah, Theo just watches because you haven't seen these two do much yet.
Yeah. I do declare this is truly thrilling.
Amelia, do you want to go send a letter to the College of Abjuration?
I am. I'm just gonna write the letter and give it to my familiar.
I assumed you were going to give it to your familiar called Aberforth? Abernif?
Mr. Aberforth.
Aberforth. Hey, if I can remember that like 2 years ago, I'm taking that as a win.
It's a very important Mister in front of that, though.
Yes.
Nah, you're right.
He's a very proper owl. It's also very important to note that he does have a fairly extensive collection of bow ties and hats.
Yeah. He's a mister. It makes sense.
He's a mister. This is the appropriate thing.
Yeah, totally. Just gonna send him out the window?
Yeah.
Send your owl out the window with a letter. Excellent. That's great. You watch the two chuckle nuts wrestle for a bit after doing that, because they're still done by the time it's taking you quicker.
Feel free to give up any time.
I don't know the meaning.
It's going to be a long day.
While you're arm wrestling,
I don't disagree.
there's a knock on the door. There's a knock on the door that takes both of your attention away, and you both kind of like break the arm wrestle off.
We'll finish this later.
Will do.
Knock at the door, team. I think
anybody
you
gonna
two.
get
I
that?
think those two. The way I'm imagining it is those two are closest to the door. That would be like where the table and chairs are. I just in my mind.
They just taken over our desk.
They're also the muscle, so I imagine Amelia has encouraged them to be near the door.
Amelia, would you like me to get that?
Oh, no, that's okay. I have it. You'll notice, like, on the back end of the door, there is, like a place where you put your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has been explicitly told not to touch it. Because it is a trap.
Uh-huh.
That has been primed to go off.
Yeah.
So I will keep my hand, like, on that spot and then open the door to see who it is.
There's no one there. Feel free to give me a perception check, though.
I'm kind of peering through the door as well.
You can also
right
give me
now,
a perception
'cause I'm
check.
very curious.
Yeah, just sort of.
Ronan would be putting on his gauntlets now that we're in the middle. Nice.
You don't need this boy. Unnecessary boy.
I just want to see what I see as well.
You immediately know what happened, Amelia. At first you think someone might be pranking you, which does not go well for them. But you then quite quickly connect what happened, because I don't think necessarily you would have been this kind of person, but you've probably known people who would go and ask for someone for help and then run away feeling guilty and maybe embarrassed. You see around the corner where your neighbor Dot lives, someone just kind of threatening a short young woman. Just kind of clearly trying to look like she didn't just knock on the door. But you can just see the worry that this person carries all about them very presently.
Hello. Would you like to come inside?
Yeah. You help people, right? You can find people?
Mm-hmm.
She will come in. You notice as she kind of brings her hair back that she is a half-elf. Telltale, short pointed ears. The hair is curly and kind of reaches the neck and then whooshes out. Her clothes are quite warm, but quite simple. And she would come in and sort of start wringing her hands together and then take off her gloves. Just kind of look around curiously.
Please, have a seat.
She will
Would
look
you
to
like some tea?
the two scary
Caden
boys.
Caden has stood up and he's actually offering the chair.
Aha! She will take that.
Ronan. So Ronan would have stood up, but he's stretching and just like making sure he's good to go. And
She like hesitates near Ronan, but does sit. She shakes her head quite strongly at the invitation for tea.
I'll sit on the other side of the desk and just wait.
She also seems to be waiting for a sec. She seems like either on the verge of tears or has already cried quite a lot.
In the middle of that pause, I'm just gonna stand up and like approach a little bit, still keeping a bit of a distance, and just say, "Pardon me, excuse my interruption, but is there something we can help you with, darling?"
I'm gonna start pulling out a contract and filling it out.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you do the talky thing.
My little brother's gone missing. I haven't seen him for must be a week now, and it's not like him. We've been so close since we got here. It's
Okay, I'm sure it is very out of character for him to run away. That is truly heartbreaking to hear. When was the last time you saw him?
It must have been 5 or 6 days ago at home.
5 or 6 days ago at home. And where exactly do you...
where is your home?
Oh,
No, Ronan's actually got like a little notepad out and he's writing details specifically like this sort of stuff.
it's just a little place off near. And she will give a better direction.
Yeah.
It's hard for me as a
Yeah.
human to describe such a
Yeah, that's okay.
three-dimensional spired city, but she does kind of give that like. But he's not there. It's not like he's
Well,
hiding.
Of course, but whenever we are to trace someone's steps, it is very important we start with the last place they were, you see.
I went to the church, and I thought that maybe he'd be
Huge
there. and
mistake, darling. You do not want to be stepping foot into a church if you need help. See,
But-
that's when you come to us.
Yes, he spent quite a bit
It's
of time.
It's okay. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. But you're here now. That's the only thing that matters.
I'm so sorry, miss. Can we get your name?
Kara leans.
Carlines?
Yeah.
And then I write it down in the contract.
Do you know
I
anyone here in the
suppose it
city?
is true. We should introduce ourselves before we move any further. I am Theo. This is Amelia, as per the door. These two boys are
Yes, of course. By the
Caden
door.
and sauce with an R. Do not tell me Ronan. They
You got there eventually.
they're friends that we keep around to keep the beasties away.
So you don't think there's beasties involved, do you?
Oh, I'm sure there are no beasties involved. He's most likely just gotten lost or wandered off on some type of little adventure. But we keep him
Ronan gives-
around just in case.
Ronan gives Caden a look of, I don't know about that. Just like,
Caden
Amelia
is
also has like a look of like, can be beasties.
Caden is very much just kind of nodding at Ronan as he looks over, just knowing full well what that look means.
At this point, I'm like over on the end of the desk, kind of like crouched down to be at their level since they're sitting.
Yeah. His name's Bosner.
Now that is a fine name, Bosner.
It's a wood elven name.
I take it that is where the half elf in your lineage comes from. The wood elves, was it?
Yes, we came here after my mother passed. It's not been long. If he ran off
No.
immediately, I would have understood. But we've always been really close, and he told me everything. I'm not gonna pretend it's not been hard. This is a hard place to live. You can't grow anything. You can't. It's hard to make any kind of money if you're not a wizard or something. We're not anything.
You're
We're just
me.
normal.
I hail from Northenden, and this place is far too cold for my liking, but as long as there are folks like you around who need helping, you rest assured I'm not going to be going anywhere.
Thank you. I just don't know what I would do if I lost him. We're very close.
We will do everything within our extraneous powers to make sure that does not come to pass. Now, is there anything he was saying or doing recently before then that could have been seen maybe out of character, acting weird, being a little reclusive if he was otherwise?
I mean, he's 13 years old. He's going to start acting a little weird, right?
Did you and your brother interact with anyone in the city recently?
I just work. He goes to the guiding church near our house. It's nice. I think he likes the community sort of aspect of
And
it.
where do you work?
Oh, I just sort of pick up jobs from anyone around, washing clothes, carrying, fetching things, that sort of thing.
I'm going to need a list of the people you've worked for recently.
Oh, okay. I think I can. She'll
I'm assuming
start.
you said okay. You cut out.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much she cut out as well, but she would start.
Okay.
She would start writing it down.
Yeah, paper.
It,
I'll give her some paper and some pens.
It's more descriptions than names.
Close enough.
Because this is a very common job for anyone in Jarviskjir, you know, to just kind of help others for like a few coppers or a silver, right? Especially for someone new to a city.
And Kara, what is your brother's name?
It's Bosna Lanes.
And in addition to the church, was there anywhere else you'd like to visit? Any other friends you might have had?
He sort of stayed at home when I was working. We didn't go out much because it's cold here. We can't afford all the equipment. I suppose he could have been going out while I was working. There's been no way of knowing.
Okay. We can look into this for you. We will have to discuss payment.
Yes. How much would it? What do we talk? I have some of my mother's inheritance. Trying to save it away, but
Ollie, can I like do like an appraisal roll, like the common cost of the city?
That's a good. I think this would just be something you would kind of know,
Yes.
right? Because you've also done some adventuring, off and about as well. It depends, you know. You could be nice and put this on like 100 gold. That's probably your lowest tier. But you have to support multiple people, so you probably want to go around 400. And then, if it does end up being something where you're going to have to fight people or something, maybe
There would be like a hazard pay included in the contract.
there should be some hazard pay situation sort of thing, yeah. But
So
you
I'm
also
gonna
know
say
that it's...
400 is kind of like our flat fee.
That's what I would imagine, right? Because then it's 100 each on payment, or not. Amelia can pay her employees however you want. You get store credit.
We would split it all even. Yeah. So 100 gold is the flat fee, and like we'll say like there's like a range of hazard pay.
Yeah.
Anywhere between like 50 to another 400, we'll say.
That makes sense.
Depending on like the
range of hazard, yeah.
The complexity of the issue.
Yeah.
And so I'll write all that down and I'll kind of like slide the contract over to her. We might be able to work out a payment plan of sorts. If this is unfeasible for your current situation.
I can pay 400. I can pay 400 now. I don't know about much more, but I suppose there's no way he would have. He's just a kid. He wouldn't have got into anything violent. I know that there's violent people in this city, and I get it. It's dangerous to even be here, but... And she's saying this while, like, shaky hands are going to, like, her bag and taking out very carefully collected coin stacks, basically. So it's measured, like, each
Caden
50.
will walk
discuss the
over
pay
to
after
her
the fact.
at this point and just put his hand on her shoulder and just say, "It'll be okay."
She visibly relaxes. Just sort of nods.
And then he goes back to pacing across the room like an impatient child.
We can discuss the hazard pay after the fact. The 400 up front is plenty right now.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Do I stay here or should I?
You can go back home.
She
We'll be in
nods
touch.
and gets up. Kind of looking at each of one of you one more time with quite actually, like, I was going to say sharp eyes, but no, not unsharp eyes. I don't know the best way to describe that. Not dull. It's not like there's no color. There's just like no focus, right?
When she's getting ready to leave, before she does, I'm gonna walk over to my own massive pile of winter clothes. Because the thing is that Theo is like pretty well dressed. Like he looks like a chaplain. Like he's wearing his like vestments is the word I'm looking for. But I do have a pile of like less nice, like just 5 layers of winter clothes because I'm very much not from here.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna pull out of that like a long, like kind of dark red scarf that looks pretty like tattered and worn.
Would have been
Bring that
nice 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's just like, it's okay. It does the job. And I'm going to go over and give that to her. And as I do so, just say, now listen. My mama made this scarf for me many a year ago, and it has kept me comfortable and warm since then. And I hope that it will provide the same amount of comfort for you to find your brother. So you hang on to this for me for now, and I'll take it back from you when the comfort of your little brother has returned, okay?
She, like, clearly touched, wordlessly just, like, sort of nods and starts tearing up a bit.
Oh, don't be crying now. We'll find him. There ain't nothing to be worried about.
Thank you. You're all very kind. You're blessed, each and one of you. And she.
Now you run along home now.
She'll hold the scarf tight and leave, and you can see her running off the bridge out the window.
Caden kind of stops pacing now and
As soon as
pulls out the his eye pendant that he has. He just kind of clasps it briefly and then puts it back under the armor.
odds are that the kid just wandered into the wrong place at the wrong time.
Oh, he is very likely to be deceased, but the least we can do is find the body for the girl and give her some closure.
Should we start with the church?
I feel like most bad things that have happened in this world have started at a church, so I do feel like that is a great place for us to begin looking.
Give me a second. I've been meaning to try this trick. And you'll notice, like, when you look at his right hand gauntlet, it's a little bit more chuffed and scratched up than his other gauntlet. You may have wondered why before. So he puts his hand over to his backpack, and there's a pouch on the side of it. And he pulls out of it what looks like a very sort of... It's a chain that just, instead of being there, there's just sort of darkish, purplish nothing where the chain should be. It almost looks like it's a hole where it should be. And he pulls it out, and as he pulls it out, it wraps itself around his arm all the way up into his hand. And then his eyes turn that same color. Just give me about 10 minutes. He sits there focusing, and he's going to cast
Create food.
about whether, past about the church. If we check out the church first.
Ah, yes. Now, you casting augury in this way is not like a priest doing so. I think this would be a very... You just get feelings to kind of start to brew up, almost like meditation, which might be why it comes naturally to a half-elf. Who does not meditate like their
He's like perfectly still. Like his ritual time is just him perfectly still, standing like that.
And I might imagine that shadowy chain might even move slightly while this is happening.
There's a reason why
like
his gauntlet's cuffed.
Yeah,
his gauntlet's a little more damaged because it like wraps itself around and tightens and loosens. And
you actually get many times you do this. The ritual gives you what you already kind of felt. You usually get a bad feeling in your gut that rises up through your body. You actually get quite a good feeling from it this time, which might even visibly surprise you to get a kind of pleasant sensation in return from the ritual.
Church. I think that's a good place to start. And he like lets go of the chain and it just into his pocket again.
I appreciate your talents, and then I'll hold the door open for everybody to leave.
Thank you.
Now, notably, as soon as they're outside, he holds out his hand and a glaive just puts it on his back. Okay, let's go.
Can I roll an insight check to just determine the like nature of his magic?
That would not be an insight check. That would be
I didn't mean to roll that.
Oh my god!
What a waste.
That would have been a
whatever,
really good insight
Just
check.
ignore it.
What a
Arcana?
shame. Arcana or religion?
I think Arcana's better for me. So I'll
The
do that.
priest.
Cool.
It's
Well, I'm an
definitely this
Arcana
is
priest.
not you going like, I don't know what this is. This is like I will ruminate
Yeah.
on the nature of what I've seen carefully in your own mind for a bit. And
It's
you'll,
more curiosity than anything.
And you can head out.
I would like to ask if Caden's okay, because he's been rather quiet.
Oh.
And I just want to make sure things are okay. I don't know if
Just-
the...
Eager to get going, that's all.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't know if the story resonated with you a little too much.
I
The
will
lineage and the
be
coming-
honest with you, I wasn't listening.
Okay, good.
Ronan starts walking a little bit faster. If Ronan overheard that, Ronan starts walking
Ronan
a
is
little
like,
bit faster.
I know where this church is. I'm just gonna start going. They can talk. I want to have in that conversation.
Sorry, was I supposed to be listening?
No, you're fine.
Oh, all right. It's
Kaden, you just keep on doing what you're doing, son. You were providing every possible service that we could ask you to.
He just kind of looks at you a little bit funny and then just walks to catch up with Ronan.
You'll be all right, young man. You'll be all right.
And you, as a party, start to move through the city of Bastillion. Like I said before, the three half-elves very much look like they belong. You walk like you belong, you talk like you belong. I don't know if all of you can speak the native language. You can probably get by in conversation, but maybe not fluently. But you also do not bundle up that much for the cold. You've been here nearly all your lives. You're used to a city that rarely gets above 0 degrees C. It's that cold. But you're also used to walking in a city where if you stumble on a walkway, you could fall to your death. You know, you have to be able to walk quite confidently and also deal with the large crowds that form in these bundles. Theo, however, is clearly new, bundled head to toe in warm winter gear. getting around. And the people of Bastillion might have been a slight shock to you when you first got here, Theodore. You would have known about these people. You may have even have met some of them. But when you get to Bastillion, you really get to meet a lot of Vascursed. Some people would call these tieflings. They don't really use that term. They use the term Vascursed. They are the descendants who settled this place. They first settled this place. But it's such a cold, inhospitable place. There's no way an organic race could survive. So they made a deal in ancient times with a fiend that gave them a blessing of brilliant, burning internal heat that could allow them to live in such a cold, horrible place and swim in the waters and catch fish and all of that. Only their children was starting to be born with demonic traits, and now, several thousand years later, the Vascursed predominantly are red-skinned, horned, but they're also very curious in that there's a very wide variety of physical traits among them. Some have like tall horns, twisting horns, a huge variety of skin colors. Some have cloven, hooved feet. Some have tails. Some have silky, incredibly smooth skin. Some have skin as hard as rock. This is just a thing, and Vascursed as a society are very open about it. There's no hiding your tail. There's no hiding your fangs. There's no hiding eyes that glow with unearthly light. They embrace it. They embrace it to the extent that in Northenden, where you would have met some, they would openly call themselves demons and brag about it. They very much made this almost millennial-esque culture of embracing what they are, and also embracing different religions. Walking through the streets of Bastillion with all these sorts of people where a huddling of Vascursed radiates heat as you pass them by, there's very much, as you go through crowded streets, people standing on the railings, preaching, trying to bring people into their fold for all sorts of religions. Every religion you would have heard in the Heartlands, but also open worship of shadowy entities that may or may not be illegal to worship in other places, and even fiends and things like that. There's a lot of ways people are trying to find comfort in such a cold place, while the people make by getting along. You don't dwell too far down where things are much more difficult. The areas you pass through are mostly living areas, open markets, where you see a variety of people, not only Vascursed of every sort of color, but also more half-elves. There's a lot of half-elves in Bastillion. Real elves.
Hey now.
How dare you?
Very rude.
The occasional dragonborn. It's similar to Northenden. It's a place where you do see a variety of races. If you've got the stones to survive, especially after a particularly cold winter. Following the directions, which you're glad that Ronan is doing so, because following directions in a city like this involves the floor and the floor of the tower to get there, and the tower, and all of them have very dramatic names, brings you to one of these spires. You can, even looking up, you see just a bunch of little windows that dot the side and walkways that people travel up, and a little plaza before a sensibly sized church. There's a little bit of a sort of extension out of the walkways. There's no unification in the buildings of Bastillion. Sometimes it looks like people have just built off the side of these towers. Sometimes it looks like it's been there for centuries. Sometimes it looks like even older than that. But there's a clear churchliness to it, which is not often the case. And often there's these just open preachings and things like this. But this is a solid place where people gather. The doors are open, double doors at the front. There is There's a series of benches outside that are quite nice, Gothic metalwork. All the architecture of Bastillion is overly Gothic, to the point of absurdism and even uselessness sometimes. But out there's actually someone sitting outside. There is an elf with sort of tan skin and short hair, and she's tending to weapons. Quite scarred. Immediately the kind of person that, like, Ronan can see themselves in a little bit. And you can already see inside the church as well, where it looks like basically like tiny entrance hall and then almost like an amphitheater type space for speeches. And from here, with the doors open, you can see the symbolature, and all of you please give me a religion roll.
I was literally just about to ask. So
I know!
but that's why I waited.
I'm going to assume this isn't the religion that I follow.
No.
Oh my god, how?
Just...
I have a minus
That's a really
2.
good roll for a -2, man.
I mean, you were the one who knew this church was here.
Oh, that's a good point. Actually, it kind of does make sense that I'd know the churches in the city.
Also
I'm
-2.
missing one, I think.
Nope. You got a 6.
No.
You got a 9,
Oh,
you got a
yeah.
6.
Theo's was just in there. So
He was in with the
Ronan,
other ones.
Aaron and Ronan would get what this religion is. This is the guiding church. It is the most organized and largest religion in Bastillion. They follow an entity known as the Guide. And I mean entity. Like I said, the Vascursed kind of embrace that they're not going to follow a religion about some strange supposed figure that might bless you. No, they worship a creature that gives open gifts. This entity known as the Guide is shown as a almost open-armed Vascursed with these multiple curling horns that are huge, often topless and just jacked. You know about it, Aaron, because you've lived here all your life, and it is the largest religion. While it is the largest organized religion, you've also encountered, just because it's organized doesn't mean everyone gets along. It's very much a, people... You know, a priest has a small collection of followers they have a very personal relationship with, and then sometimes those priests will butt heads with other peoples about how they follow this religion. Ronan has experienced a little bit more of this, knowing people who follow it and maybe being vaguely interested about it in the past as well. The core tenet of the guiding church, and why it appeals to the Vascursed in particular, is that you can change your life. You are not the sins of your family or your blood or anything. You can make yourself be anything with the help of others and the right mindset and all sort of thing. It's very much like almost like a church of therapy, in some ways, and that really appeals to people who are openly cursed. But like I said, these churches often don't get along with each other, even though they're organized. They butt heads, but they're usually quite a supportive, almost charitable place, as much as you can get so. But you've also, Ronan, you've encountered people who, these priests who obviously take advantage of people, manipulate people, that kind of thing as well, because of course they do.
All right, Mr. Chatty, you're up. And he turns around and looks at Theo.
It's funny because when you do that, I'm just like... Something I actually forgot to mention is that Theo walks with a cane, but he usually just keeps it under his arm. Like, he doesn't, like, actually need it, but he has just a cane, which is quite ornate, but it's just made of natural wood. There's not, like, metal and gems and shit on it or anything. It's not a pimp cane. He's just, like, got that tucked under one arm and he's kind of leaning over, just investigating one of the, like, super impositions of this open-armed figure and just being like, well, I've heard of being welcomed with open arms, but this is a bit excessive.
That I would agree with.
Just one thing to note: Caden is very much paying attention, just not to any of you. He's paying attention to the surroundings and just very much watching everyone's back right now. That's it. If you're noticing him looking distant, it's distant, but he's with purpose at this point.
I think Ronan, similarly, but not quite the same thing. Ronan would be looking at the building, looking at entries, exits, looking at windows and things that might be able to be moved, things like that. That's what he's looking around for.
So I assume we're just entering the church.
Probably go talk to the...
Yeah, there's a woman outside, but you could also go in and talk to the... like I said, it's open. You can already see some folk around inside. Not many, though. You know, it's...
As we go up, I'll just say to the woman outside, like, does she just look like a church greeter? Like...
No, she looks like a warrior. She's cleaning a dark steel war axe right now, and dark steel is a common metal in Bastillion. It's what all of Ronan's gear is made of. It's just dark.
Cool.
Just
well, as we
maintaining
approach, I'll just look to her and say, "Excuse me, are you merely a parishioner of the church here, or are you in some way affiliated with them?"
I suppose you could say I'm the church's guard.
Huh. Now, what kind of church needs an armed guard as equipped and ready to slay as you appear to be, if you pardon my words?
Ronan gives him a look like, really? In this town? Really?
Is it common for the churches to have guards?
It's not uncommon.
I'm asking that in character.
She
the NPC.
She kind of shrugs and stands quite politely. She's taller than all of you. Still holding the axe. It would depend. Church in other parts of the world would have paladins and soldiers sworn to its service. I just know my way around weapons. When I'm not sweeping up the place, I can sweep up troublemakers.
I hope you don't mind me asking. We were just wondering if there's been an uptick in trouble lately.
No. Hard winter. More people looking for a place to stay that would be warm. But Priestess actually encourages that kind of thing. It almost makes me think I'm back in Aradia.
Well, it has been lovely chatting with you, but I am freezing to the bone out here, so I'm about to head inside. Y'all can mingle if that's what y'all want to do, but personally, and then I just walk into the church.
I'll give her a wave as we walk by.
Ronan will give her a nod, just like the sort of...
Yeah.
Caden kind of lingers for a moment and then looks at her and just says, "Aradia."
Aye.
How long since you've been?
Oh, since I've been here? It's hard to count. Day and night blur together in this place. But decades. At least 5 decades. I haven't always been here. Here.
Fair enough. What's your name?
Sereth.
Sereth? Caden. And he reaches an outstretched hand.
Yeah, she'll like take the axe in one hand and handshake.
I like your axe. Essene is still covered in axes himself and then says, "I should go join my friends."
She just nods and sits back down. And we can take a little break. You can hold on to whatever meme is coming up.
It's not even a meme. All I'm
We're going on break. We'll be back in a few minutes.
It's fine.
I never get to do this. I never get to cut you off, and I will take my moment. We'll be back in a few minutes. Hold on to your horses. I'm not comfortable with that one.